When no one supports you, the world expects you to break. And that is exactly why this is the greatest advantage you will ever have. Because the moment you realize no one is coming to save you, you tap into a source of strength that people who are constantly surrounded by comfort will never understand. People think support creates winners, but history shows the opposite. The strongest minds, the most resilient leaders, and the most unstoppable individuals were forged in isolation, doubt, and silence. When the world stops applauding you, something powerful begins inside you. You stop performing for approval. You stop chasing validation. You stop waiting for people to understand you. And suddenly, your mind becomes sharp, focused, and unbreakable. When you have no support, your vision becomes crystal clear because there are no voices around you to confuse you, discourage you, or slow you down. You begin to learn a truth Machiavelli understood centuries ago, that leaders are not created by love, applause, or support. Leaders are created by pressure, rejection, and the courage to walk alone. And when you accept that, something fundamental shifts. You no longer ask, "Why doesn't anyone support me?" Instead, you say, "Good, now I am free to move without permission." Every time someone doubts you, they are handing you a gift. Doubt is fuel. Rejection is fuel. Being underestimated is fuel. Alone not lonely is the state where real power is born. The world has always respected those who rise without the crowd behind them, because the one who climbs alone learns how to hold his position without falling. When you have no support, you become more disciplined. You start relying on your own routine, your own decisions, your own standards. You begin to understand that discipline is more powerful than motivation. Motivation fades. Support disappears. But discipline your ability to act even when you're tired, discouraged, or invisible. That's what separates the average from the exceptional. Look around you. Every time someone says you can't do it, they are revealing their limits, not yours. Their doubt is not a wall, it's a challenge. A reminder that if you want something meaningful, you must be willing to walk a path most people will never choose. A path often walked alone. When you are unsupported, your emotional dependency dies. And with it, your fear of being alone dies too. You stop caring about who approves of you. You stop being controlled by opinions. You stop living to please and start living to build. That's when your confidence becomes real. Not loud, not flashy, but solid and shakeable. And this is where your transformation starts. You begin showing up every day, not because people believe in you, but because you believe in you. You stop giving explanations. You stop trying to convince people. You stop waiting for someone to say you're good enough. You take the first step, and then the next, and then the next. Because progress becomes personal, slowly, the world begins to notice, not because you begged for attention, but because results are impossible to hide. People who ignored you suddenly become curious. People who doubted you quietly become silent. People who once underestimated you start copying you. And you will realize something Machiavelli understood clearly: power belongs to those who don't need to announce it. This journey of being unsupported teaches you resilience. You learn to face failure without collapsing. You learn to adapt when things go wrong. You learn to rebuild yourself without waiting for sympathy. You learn that your mind is far stronger than you were ever told. And then comes the most important lesson of all. Once you become strong alone, you become untouchable. No betrayal can break you. No rejection can stop you. No disappointment can shake you. Because you've built a life that doesn't depend on anyone showing up for you. People will eventually come around. They always do. But by then, you won't need them. Their support will feel like a bonus, not a requirement. Their approval won't control you. Their opinions won't define you. You will have already built your future, your identity, and your confidence from within. So if no one supports you, good. Use the season to rise quietly, work in silence, grow in silence, plan in silence. Let your results speak in the end, because results are the only language the world respects. Support may come later, but success starts now. And it starts with you standing alone, refusing to give up, refusing to be broken, refusing to wait for anyone. This is how to get ahead when no one supports you. You stop expecting anything from others and start expecting everything from yourself. You build discipline, resilience, focus, and self-respect. You walk alone until the world has no choice but to follow. And you continue forward, unstoppable. Because the power you built in isolation becomes the strength you will carry for the rest of your life. When you feel unsupported, you begin to see reality with a new kind of clarity. You stop romanticizing the idea that people will suddenly show up for you, and you start observing how the world truly works. Most people are too busy fighting their own silent battles to worry about your dreams. Others are threatened by your ambition because it reminds them of their own lack of action. Some simply cannot imagine anything greater than their own small vision, so they project their limitations onto you, but none of this has anything to do with your destiny. Machiavelli taught that those who rise are often those who have learned to operate without the comfort of allies. When you have no support, you learn to depend on strategy, not sympathy. You think more carefully. You move more intelligently. You become aware of who drains your energy and who feeds your progress. The absence of support teaches you to filter people not by their words, but by their actions, and often, silence is the clearest action of all. This period of isolation also forces you to confront your inner weaknesses. With no one to rely on, you begin to strengthen parts of yourself you ignored for years. Your patience grows. Your emotional control sharpens. Your ego quiets down. Your work ethic becomes consistent. You begin to realize that the only person who can sabotage you is you, and the only person who can save you is also you. That's when progress accelerates. You start thinking long-term instead of reacting to temporary emotions. You begin to understand that real success is not built on excitement, it's built on endurance. Most people quit because they expect support to carry them. You move forward because you expect discipline to carry you, and discipline never disappoints. In these moments of solitude, you will also find creativity. Ideas begin to form in the quiet corners of your mind. Solutions appear that you never saw before. Your path becomes your path, not something shaped by social pressure or expectations. The greatest breakthroughs in history were born from individuals who worked alone long before anyone recognized their genius. And then comes the shift, quiet but powerful. You stop chasing people. You stop explaining your vision. You stop proving yourself. Your energy becomes sacred. Your time becomes valuable. And your boundaries become firm. You no longer tolerate mediocrity, laziness, or anything that slows you down. You start building habits that strengthen your character, waking up earlier, working when you don't feel like it, learning constantly, cutting out distractions, and protecting your peace. As you grow stronger, something else happens. The world starts to reveal its true face. People who once doubted you begin to watch you. People who ignored you begin to notice you. People who laughed at your ambition begin to respect you. But by then, you've changed. You don't crave their support anymore. You don't need their validation. You don't rely on their opinions. You've outgrown the version of yourself that needed them. And this is the essence of the Machiavellian mindset. Power comes from independence, not approval. A person who does not need support becomes dangerous not in a harmful way, but in a way that makes them impossible to manipulate. No one can threaten to leave you because you've already learned to walk alone. No one can discourage you because you've already built your belief from within. No one can slow you down because your momentum doesn't rely on external fuel. Eventually, you will reach a moment that every strong person experiences, the point where you look back and realize the lack of support was the best thing that ever happened to you. It forced you to struggle. It forced you to grow. It forced you to build strength you never knew you had. And most importantly, it forced you to become the kind of person who leads rather than follows. So remember this, support is optional, progress is personal, and becoming unstoppable is a choice you make every single day, especially on the days when you feel alone. Keep moving forward, keep building, keep rising, because once you master the art of advancing without support, the world becomes yours not because they helped you, but because they couldn't stop you. When you walk a path without support, you begin to understand something most people never learn in their lifetime. You don't grow because people encourage you. You grow because life pressures you. Pressure forces you to make decisions. Pressure forces you to choose discipline over comfort. Pressure forces you to become someone you didn't even know you could be. And here's the truth many avoid. If everyone supported you, you would become soft. You would depend on opinions. You would move slowly, waiting for approval. You would hesitate, wondering what people think. But when no one supports you, hesitation dies. You move faster. You trust yourself more. You rely on your inner voice instead of the noise around you. You start to realize that the world belongs to the person who acts, not the person who waits. Every lonely night, every moment of doubt, every time you felt invisible, these are the exact moments building your character. They are shaping you into someone who doesn't break easily, someone who can carry responsibility, pressure, and ambition without collapsing. People with constant support rarely develop this kind of mental armor. Only the unsupported do. And then you learn another lesson. When people don't support you, It's usually because they can't understand what you're capable of. They judge you based on your present, not your potential. They assume you are the same as them, limited, fearful, small-minded. But you're not. You are someone who is willing to go further than others, willing to risk being misunderstood, willing to stand alone if that's what it takes to reach the next level. You also start to understand the difference between loneliness and focus. Loneliness hurts at first, but focus heals. The moment you shift from no one is with me to I don't need anyone with me, the loneliness disappears. The silence becomes your training ground. The solitude becomes your strategy room. The world becomes quieter, and your purpose becomes louder. In time, your habits transform. You stop wasting your energy on arguments, on convincing people, on trying to be liked. You begin investing that energy into skills, into learning, into discipline, into building something real. Your confidence no longer depends on praise. It depends on effort, on consistency, on the quiet victories nobody sees. And slowly, you start achieving things people said were impossible. You hit goals you once thought were out of reach. You overcome obstacles you once feared. You become someone people never expected you to be. And it is not because support arrived. It is because you learned to move without it. This is the point where life changes. When you no longer need support, you become unstoppable. Not loud, not arrogant, but calm, focused, and powerful. People sense it in your presence, in your decisions, in your discipline. They realize you've built a solid foundation within yourself, and that foundation cannot be shaken. Eventually, support will come. People will praise you. People will claim they always believed in you. People will want to stand next to you because success attracts attention. But by then, you will be different. You won't be driven by their approval. You won't be held back by their doubts. You won't be controlled by their expectations. You will move at your own pace, on your own terms. And that is the ultimate victory, not the applause, not the recognition, but the transformation. From someone who once wished for support to someone who no longer needs it. From someone who once felt small to someone who now understands their own power. From someone who walked alone to someone who built a life that stands firm, no matter who stays or leaves. So keep going, keep rising, keep becoming. One day you'll look back and say, this was all worth it. The silence, the doubt, the loneliness, it made me unbreakable. And that is the point of walking without support, not just to succeed, but to become the strongest version of yourself along the way. When no one supports you, you start to develop a relationship with yourself that most people never experience. You become your own motivator, your own critic, your own strategist, your own protector. You begin to understand your strengths, your weaknesses, your triggers, your patterns, not because someone pointed them out, but because you had to face them alone. And this self-awareness becomes your greatest weapon in life. People with support often have their confidence borrowed. People without support build their confidence from scratch. And confidence you build alone is permanent. It doesn't break when someone leaves. It doesn't collapse when someone doubts you. It doesn't fade because someone has an opinion. It's yours, carved out through experience, discipline, and resilience. As you continue moving alone, you begin to understand something powerful. Success is built in stages. The first stage is silence. The second stage is struggle. The third stage is growth. The fourth stage is distance, the distance you create from those who never believed in you. And the final stage is arrival, where you step into the version of yourself you were always meant to become. When no one supports you, you also learn the art of emotional independence. You stop expecting people to understand your vision. You stop expecting them to clap for you. You stop expecting them to push you. You stop expecting anything from anyone, and that freedom makes you incredibly strong. Because expectations are chains. Once they break, you move differently. You stop being disappointed because you stop relying on people to give you what only you can give yourself. Machiavelli understood that the greatest leaders were those who mastered their emotions, not those who mastered others. When you walk a lonely path, you learn emotional control naturally. You learn not to react to disrespect. You learn not to collapse under pressure. You learn not to waste your energy on battles that don't matter. You learn patience, not the passive kind, but the strategic kind. The patience that waits, plans, and moves only when the time is right. In these moments, you also discover your hunger. The hunger to prove to yourself that you are meant for more. Hunger is a powerful force. It pushes you when comfort won't. It drives you when supporters won't. It keeps you moving when everyone else has given up. And hunger is born from the lack of support, not the presence of it. You also start mastering the skill of persistence. Persistence is what separates ordinary people from remarkable ones. Most give up because someone discouraged them. Most slow down because they want approval. But when you've walked alone long enough, you realize that persistence is your identity. You keep going not to impress anyone, but because that's who you are now. You begin to attract opportunities because of your consistency, your discipline, your silence, your focus. You're no longer distracted by noise. You're no longer slowed by doubt. You move like someone who has nothing to lose and everything to build. Eventually, you reach a point where the same people who didn't support you begin to change their tone. They start saying, "I always knew you could do it." They start pretending they were with you from the beginning. They start wanting access to the version of you they never helped create. And this is where your Machiavellian mindset protects you. You remember, not out of bitterness, but out of clarity. You know exactly who contributed to your growth and who contributed to your silence. But here's the beautiful part. By the time support arrives, you don't need it. You've already built the habits, the discipline, the resilience, the focus, and the identity of someone who stands on their own feet. You've already become unstoppable. And once you become unstoppable, life opens up in ways you never expected. New opportunities appear. New paths unfold. You start making decisions from strength, not fear. You stop surviving and start dominating. You stop doubting and start building. You stop chasing and start attracting. You realize you didn't grow despite the lack of support. You grew because of it. What once felt like loneliness now feels like power. What once felt like silence now feels like peace. What once felt like abandonment now feels like independence. So keep going. You are not behind. You are not unsupported. You are being shaped. You are being hardened. You are being prepared for a life that requires strength, not applause. One day, the world will see what you built. But today, you build quietly, and that quiet is your advantage. When you spend enough time walking alone, something changes in the way you see yourself. You stop viewing loneliness as a weakness and start seeing it as a sharpening tool. Every day you spend without support forces you to rely on your own decisions, your own strength, and your own vision. You begin to realize that being alone is not the end of the journey, it is the beginning of mastery. You discover what you're truly capable of because there is no one to lean on. There's no safety net, no emotional cushion, no voice telling you what to do next. And this forces you to develop an inner voice so strong that no amount of doubt, criticism, or rejection from the outside world can silence it. That voice becomes your compass. It becomes the engine that pushes you forward when everything else stands still. You start building a resilience that most people never experience. Every time you push through without support, your mind gets stronger. Every time you choose to continue despite feeling unseen, your confidence grows. Every time you stand back up after being dismissed or ignored, you create a version of yourself that is impossible to break. People with support really develop this kind of endurance. They never feel the fire that comes from being doubted, underestimated, or forgotten. But you do, and that fire is turning you into someone unstoppable. You begin to understand that progress doesn't require an audience. Growth doesn't require applause. Discipline doesn't require permission. Everything you need is already inside you. You're just now learning how powerful it really is. You start setting goals that scare you. You start making decisions that elevate you. You start removing anything that slows you down. You look at your life with clarity because nothing is distracting you anymore. And as your mindset transforms, so does your environment. You stop chasing the wrong people and wrong habits. You stop wasting time proving yourself. You stop giving energy to things that don't help you move forward. You learn to walk away quietly, quickly, and confidently from anything that doesn't align with the future you're building. With every step, you become more focused, more disciplined, more dangerous, not in a destructive way, but in a way that makes your presence felt without you having to say a single word. You develop an aura of someone who has been through silence, through pressure, through disappointment, and survived all of it stronger than before. Eventually, the world begins to adjust to the new you. People who never supported you start noticing your progress. People who never believed in you start asking how you did it. People who once ignored you begin to respect the strength you forge on your own. But by then, you won't be seeking their validation. You won't need their approval. You won't depend on their support. You will already know your worth because you earn it without anyone holding your hand. And this is the ultimate victory, becoming someone who grows without being pushed. Someone who rises without being lifted. Someone who succeeds without being carried. You become a force that cannot be stopped because your strength didn't come from encouragement, it came from endurance. Your confidence didn't come from praise, it came from perseverance. It came from standing alone. Until you no longer feared being alone. When you move through life without anyone beside you, you begin to develop a depth that people who are constantly supported never reach. You start to feel a shift inside your mind and understanding that if you don't push yourself, nothing will move. If you don't believe in yourself, no belief will come. If you don't act, nothing will change. This realization is painful at first, but slowly it becomes your power. It becomes the silent truth that shapes your identity. You become someone who stops waiting for perfect conditions. You stop waiting for motivation. You stop waiting for the right people to show up. You stop waiting for someone to give you permission to begin. You simply begin. You act because you have no other choice. You're tired, scared, hurt, or unsure becomes the foundation of your strength. You start understanding that most people are held back, not because they're weak, but because they're surrounded by comfort. Comfort softens your edge. Comfort slows your growth. Comfort makes you dependent. But when you're alone, there's no comfort to fall back on. You are forced to create momentum from within. And this internal momentum turns you into someone who cannot be stopped once they start moving. As the days pass, you begin to transform in ways others can't see. While the world sleeps, you're improving. While others complain, you're learning. While they look for shortcuts, you build real skill. While they wait for motivation, you build habits. And these habits begin to change your future long before anyone notices your effort. You train your mind to keep going even when it feels heavy. You learn that consistency matters more than applause. You learn that showing up every day, especially when no one sees it, is what separates the average from the extraordinary. You start to feel pride in the smallest victories because they're yours. No one gave them to you. No one helped you earn them. You built them with your own hands, your own focus, your own will. And this quiet pride becomes fuel. It reminds you that you're capable, that you're growing, that you're becoming someone stronger than the person you were yesterday. There comes a point where you stop craving support altogether. You stop wishing for someone to understand you. You stop getting disappointed when people disappear. You stop hoping someone will come along and make the journey easier. You stop expecting anything from anyone, and that's when you truly become free. Free from expectations, free from disappointment, free from the emotional chains that once held you back. Your mind becomes calm. Your focus becomes intense. Your goals become clearer. You start believing in your future because you've seen what you can create on your own. You stop being afraid of losing people because you've already learned you can walk alone. You stop being afraid of failure because you've already failed and stood back up without anyone else's help. You stop being afraid of judgment because you've already grown in silence without approval. Eventually, you become the kind of person who leads by example, not by words. People feel your energy without you having to speak. They sense your confidence without you having to prove anything. They recognize your discipline without you having to explain your routine. You become someone who carries quiet strength built from long nights, silent battles, and a journey no one else will ever fully understand. And when success finally comes in, it won't feel like luck. It won't feel like a miracle. It won't feel like something someone handed to you. It will feel earned. It will feel deserved. It will feel inevitable. Because you didn't just chase success, you built the version of yourself capable of achieving it. Keep going. Every step you take alone is shaping a version of you the world will not be ready for. You are not just becoming successful, you are becoming unshakable. You are becoming someone no silence can break, no doubt can stop, and no lack of support can slow down. When no one supports you, you begin to see the world clearly. You notice how people cheer only when your victory benefits them. How encouragement appears only when your success becomes obvious. But the ones who survive, the ones who rise, are the ones who don't wait for applause. They move forward even when every voice around them is silent. This silence becomes a filter. It removes the unnecessary, the weak, the insincere, and in that empty space, your true purpose becomes louder. You start to understand that support is a luxury, not a requirement. You begin to build discipline not because someone told you to, but because your life demands it. You sharpen your focus not to impress anyone, but to protect your future. You become strategic, intentional, and detached. You no longer chase validation. You no longer explain yourself. You simply act, and your actions become your voice. People will doubt you because your growth threatens the version of you they are comfortable with. Your evolution disrupts their expectations. They want you predictable, small, dependent. But every time you choose progress over approval, you break their limitations. Every time you take one step without support, You become more self-sufficient. Every time you endure loneliness, you become mentally unbreakable. This is how you get ahead, not by shouting your dreams, but by building quietly, not by begging for help, but by mastering your craft, not by trying to prove your worth, but by turning your silence into strength. You become someone who cannot be manipulated. Because you are no longer motivated by validation, you become someone who cannot be stopped. Because you are no longer waiting for permission. Understand this. The world respects power, not potential, and power is built alone. Potential is what people ignore. Power is what they cannot deny. When you rise without support, your victory becomes unquestionable. They cannot say they helped you. They cannot claim they guided you. All they can do is watch. Every sacrifice you make today becomes a weapon tomorrow. Every lonely night becomes a lesson. Every setback becomes a sharpening tool. Every time you choose discipline over comfort, you step one level higher. People who ignored you now observe you. People who doubted you now study you. People who dismissed you now fear falling behind you. Your journey is not supposed to be easy. If everyone supported you, you'd never develop the mental armor required to reach the top. If everyone believed in you, you depend on their belief. But when no one supports you, you are forced to develop your own fuel, your own drive, your own fire. And that fire cannot be taken away. Keep building. Keep moving. Keep becoming the person who no longer needs anything from anyone. Because the moment you stop seeking support and start creating results, you shift from being ignored to being unstoppable. There comes a moment in your journey when you realize that the people who once doubted you are now watching closely, not out of support, but out of fear that you might actually become everything they said you couldn't. That moment is powerful. It's when you finally understand that their silence was never a sign of your weakness, but a sign of their limits. They couldn't see your path because it wasn't meant for them. They couldn't support you because they were never built to walk beside you. Each day you push forward alone, your mind becomes sharper. You start recognizing patterns in people, the talkers, the doubters, the ones who secretly hope you fail so they can stay comfortable. But instead of letting their energy slow you down, you use it. You turn their doubt into fuel. You convert their silence into clarity. You transform their absence into independence. While they waste time waiting for perfect conditions, you take imperfect action. While they seek approval, you seek progress. While they ask for shortcuts, you build skills. This is why you get ahead, not because you had support, but because you learned to grow without it. There is an undeniable strength in someone who survives disappointment and keeps moving. Someone who is betrayed and still chooses discipline. Someone who feels alone but refuses to stop. That kind of person becomes unstoppable, not because they had an easy path, but because they learned to walk through the hard one with intention. People will return when they think you've made it. They always do. They will act like they believed in you the entire time, like they knew you were destined for more. But you will know the truth. You will remember every silent room, every ignored message, every moment you had only yourself to rely on. And instead of feeling bitterness, you'll feel power. Because you didn't rise with applause, you rose in isolation. When no one supports you, you learn to listen to your own voice. You learn to trust your own instincts. You learn to build your own path brick by brick. And eventually, your results will speak so loudly that silence from others no longer matters. Your work becomes your language. Your progress becomes your shield. Your self-belief becomes your strongest ally. Keep going. Keep building. Keep rising in the dark. Because when the world finally sees your light, they will understand that you were never alone. You were simply evolving. As you keep rising alone, you start to understand the truth about success that most people never learn. The higher you climb, the fewer people you can rely on. Not because the world is cruel, but because most people simply are not built for the path you're choosing. They want comfort. You want growth. They want approval. You want freedom. They want someone to blame. You want responsibility. This difference separates you from them, and it's the reason you will go further than they ever imagined. You learn to accept that isolation is not a punishment, it's preparation. Every quiet season is shaping your character. Every lonely decision is sharpening your judgment. Every moment without support is teaching you how to survive without depending on anyone. And that independence is what makes you dangerous. Not dangerous in a harmful sense, but in a powerful one, because a person who needs no approval is impossible to control. While others hesitate, you execute. While they look for reassurance, you look for opportunities. While they wait for motivation, you work through discipline, and that is why you rise. Not because you're lucky, but because you're relentless. Not because people pushed you, but because you kept pushing yourself when no one else did. There will come a day when people will ask how you did it. They'll ask what changed. They'll ask what secret you discovered. But the truth is simple. You didn't wait. You didn't slow down. You didn't stop because someone didn't clap for you. You kept going regardless. That kind of mindset is rare. That kind of mindset is feared. And that kind of mindset is what separates the successful from the forgotten. You'll notice that the more you grow, the quieter you become. You don't announce your moves. You don't share your plans. You don't waste time convincing anyone. You work, you build, you rise, and soon your results become so undeniable that people have no choice but to respect your path. Even the ones who never supported you will pretend they always believed in you, but by then, you'll be different, stronger, sharper, smarter. You'll understand that the journey was never about them. It was about the person you were becoming, disciplined enough to stay consistent, resilient enough to endure setbacks, and independent enough to rise without support. Keep moving forward with that energy. Keep building your future with your own hands. Because one day, the world will realize that the person they doubted became the person they now admire. And deep down, you will know the truth. You didn't need supporters to become unstoppable. You just needed the courage to keep going alone. You start to realize that the very people who didn't support you were never meant to see your vision in the first place. Your dreams were too big for their mindset, too ambitious for their fears, too bold for their comfort. They weren't rejecting you, they were rejecting the version of themselves they would have to confront if they stood beside you. Because supporting someone who wants more out of life forces them to ask why they settled. And most people would rather stay small than face that question. So you rise anyway. You move anyway. You evolve anyway. And with every step forward, you begin to feel something shift inside you. You no longer crave validation. You no longer need reassurance. You no longer hope for someone to notice your effort. You become self-contained. You become your own source of energy. You become someone who doesn't wait for the world to believe in them because they already believe in themselves. This self-belief becomes your armor. When people doubt you, it doesn't shake you. When they ignore you, it doesn't slow you. When they try to undermine you, it doesn't distract you. You operate on a different frequency, one built on discipline, clarity, and purpose. You wake up with direction, you work with intention, and you move with quiet confidence, and the world starts to feel that. You become harder to manipulate, harder to discourage, harder to stop. A person who has walked through loneliness and kept moving is not someone who breaks easily. You become unshakable not because life got easier, but because you learn to handle difficulty without falling apart. And as you rise, something else happens. You stop expecting people to understand your journey. You stop explaining your choices. You stop defending your ambition. You simply live it. You embody it. You let your transformation speak for itself. And people begin to notice the difference. They see it in your eyes, in your actions, in your silence. They may not say it out loud, but they feel it. You are no longer the person who needed support. You are the person who creates momentum on your own. With time, the distance between you and everyone who doubted you gets wider. Not because you ran from them, but because you outgrew them. You outgrew their excuses, their fears, their limitations. You evolved while they stayed the same, and eventually, they will look at you and realize something powerful. Your success didn't come from their support. It came from your refusal to quit without it. Keep rising in that direction. Keep building in that silence. Keep becoming the version of yourself who doesn't need anyone to believe in them to move forward. Because once you reach the level you're chasing, the world won't remember who didn't support you. They only remember who you became in spite of it.